Fans, I'm Pat Langdon.
I'm Danny Boyce.
Terry Heil.
And this is going to be awesome for me. I got to tell you.
Well, I kind of have a feeling it's going to be awesome for all of us involved here, but I know especially you, Pat.
Especially me.
Yep.
I'm
Do you have a connection to Euclid, Pat?
I'm going to be a 12-year-old again, I think. I wish I felt like I was 12. I can tell you that. I feel like I'm 112, but
Don't put your fingers through the fence.
that's right. Ever.
You got a couple more pounds in those days.
A couple. Wow. Coming out shooting, coach.
All right.
Fantastic. I'll have to remember that. Anyhow, we're going to have a nice long fireside chat, as Terry likes to say, the way that we frame this up, with the 1982 Euclid Panther baseball state championship team. And joining us right now is the man that led it all, Coach Paul Serra, and the guy that helped me set this whole thing up tonight, Tommy Deanna.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for coming down.
No problem.
So, when did you know, Coach?
When did I know what?
When did you know that this group was going to be special?
In 1981.
81. So, what about 81 made you think, yep, this is coming?
We should have won it in 81.
Yeah.
We really had a stronger team, basically, because we had an extra pitcher, Bobby Ellenbest, who was probably one of the best around. But we got upset in the regional, I believe it was. But I knew these guys were special because in 1980, we almost felt like we were ready to hang it up. Those guys came out and didn't really sound like they wanted to play. But when these guys got here, they wanted to play.
Now, the 80 team was on the heels of the 78 team that finished runner-up, right?
And 79.
79 too?
Also, yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Look at
78
that.
and 79 were runners-up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that was a long time ago. If Hartman was here, we'd remember everything for you.
Of course. We're going to miss Coach Hartman today.
Yes, you will.
So, Tommy, I'm assuming, since you grew up in Euclid, that just like a lot of these guys that are going to be here talking tonight,
Just like most of us, to be honest.
you played with these guys all the way up and through.
Oh, absolutely.
With Ray Fisher.
I had the privilege to play for Fishers and when I was 13, and probably 6 of the guys that were on that team, that state championship team, were on that Fishers team. Very special, you know.
Is that Pony League?
That was Pony League.
How is it that the Pony League was able to do all the – Obriza was like that. He had 5 starters from our varsity team on it. They're cheating going on in the Pony League.
I know. Fish knew how to draft.
Yeah.
He went to all those boys' league games. He watched every one of those games.
I was traded over to Fishers.
Oh, you were traded?
Yeah, Tommy Hongosh. That was the trade of the year. I
Oh,
went
that
over
was
to
it.
Fishers to play with my twin brother and made it easy on my parents. So,
Oh,
yeah.
How much easier did they make it on you, though, playing with your brother? Because I know what it's like having siblings and having them as teammates.
Yeah, there was always rivalry between the two of us, so I just knew not to get on the wrestling mat with them, and everything was good. If I was between the lines, I was
That's
fine.
sound advice, yes. If your brother's a wrestler, avoid it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Coach, you guys win it in 62.
82.
But no, but you won it in 62, correct?
63.
Or 63. Okay,
Yeah.
so before any of these guys are born.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up in a neighboring community in Wycliffe, Euclid at that time had the feel that there was kind of a birthright involved, kind of like with Massillon. Kids in Massillon were born, they put a Massillon Tiger football
Put
in it.
that football in right away.
I don't know if they were putting a baseball in their cribs at Euclid General, but growing up, it felt that way.
It sure did. No question.
Yeah. So as you transitioned, because you were an assistant and then you got the head job, did it have that feel to it for you?
Yes, it did. No question. Yeah.
you got to remember, he played there too.
Right. I understand that.
It had that feeling all the way through when I was playing also. We had Neil Nelson as a coach and just a great guy and a great coach, you know, and always had good teams. Always started with John Poto. He was the first coach.
Mhm.
He had good baseball all the way through. So it was quite the place for baseball.
Now, I think one of the things that I'm kind of curious of, and just kind of looking through the numbers here, the fact that the most staggering stat that they've given us here is in the 7 tournament games, you guys gave up 8 runs. I think the part that that I'm kind of curious of is how the mentality changes between a tournament game and post a regular season game. especially because even in Pony League or Little League, at least you got a best of 3 going through even for a championship series. And then it's one and done. You couldn't have an off day. You just flat out couldn't afford an off day. So what was it with the guys, not just on the hill, but out in the field that just completely shut teams down? What was that? How did that come to be?
There's only one answer for that. It's Jeff Hartman. He did a tremendous job with the pitchers, and we wouldn't be anywhere without the job he did.
I have to jump in there because if you talk to most of the guys that played at Euclid, they said they beat teams before the game even started.
Absolutely.
And that was due to the way Mr. Serra here ran infield practice. We were flawless. We knew what we were doing. And when we were done, I'm sure most of the other teams were looking at us like, oh, my God, we're in trouble.
The pinstripes didn't hurt either.
Pinstripes were great.
The Yankee pinstripes.
And I think when you were here that last time, Coach, I had kind of relayed that same sentiment. For the teams that were lucky enough to come off the bus when we were taking infield, they were done.
Yeah.
But the teams that showed up early, and you always had Tony Granito hit last.
Yeah.
And Tony used to he was prolific at hitting batting practice home runs. just smoking them. And then he didn't play. So everybody'd be like, that guy doesn't play.
Right.
Psychological warfare was very big at the Palace for sure.
Absolutely.
Going back to one and done, we could have been out in the regional final. Kenny Ronnie Saponsi makes that catch in center field.
Yes.
We could. That ball drops in, we're out. So one and done is tough. It's really tough.
Absolutely.
As good as we were.
I was going to say, it is as good as every champion does need every once in a while a little bit of lady luck on their side.
A little bit of luck.
Yeah.
The talent paid off there. He just ran him down. He was
what was the old Woody Hayes line was always luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah,
sure.
Guy was there to make the play and
he
had the ability to do so.
And all these guys did it throughout the whole season, really. We had a lot of low-scoring games. We weren't the greatest hitting team, but we could run. We could bunt, we could squeeze. We did a lot of things.
Easy.
But the defense was always impeccable. That was one of the things. And the pitching at Euclid, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I'll ask both of you guys this. So, season started out, you have the big win streak, you lose to Shaker, then you finish with 15 straight. But was there a game somewhere during the season that you would consider your signature win, the one that, as much as you saying, Coach, that you knew the year before that group was special? Was there a particular game, though, that year that you said, wait a minute, everything's coming together?
Probably that Willoughby South game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a big lead, and all of a sudden they came back and passed us right up, looking like we're going to get beat. It was like 15-1 we were ahead, and we went down 17-15, and then came back and still won it, And after all that, these kids still hung in there and came back to
At
win.
what point of the season was that game?
You have any clue? I don't remember.
That was probably game 14. 15,
okay, so middle of the
somewhere
season.
in
But
there.
it's a GCC game in the middle of the season.
I have to tell you this, though. Paul Adkins hits a grand slam in that game.
Yes.
The guy, our second baseman, probably the smallest guy on the team, and rips the ball over the fence. And that game went back and forth the whole time.
And they immediately drug tested him.
Right.
Right away.
Check the bats.
Check the bats for sure.
Well, he hit it from second base.
Oh, well, yes, he left that. That's well detailed. He hit it twice.
It was a part 2.
Yeah. So, Coach said that he knew in 81. When did you guys as players know, Tommy, that that you had something going?
Well, to be honest, I'll go back to 13 years old when I was playing with Chris Hughes and Joe Eiffelise and Gary Casto and my brother, and there were other guys on that team I can't think of right now. But it was a special group of kids, but not only that, parents as well. Oh, and as we moved into the 10th, 11th grade, we were a cohesive unit, and not only as a team, but as a family. We did things together as families. We went to a lot of different places. And to give you an idea, how you get your senior pictures and they come out early in the year. If you look on the back of probably every one of these guys who gave a senior picture out, it said, "I'll see you at state." So there was no stopping us. That was our end goal. For sure.
Yeah, I was wondering, could you expound on that a little bit? Because, I know how Pat was, all those guys that you grew up with. We talk about that connection you have coming up with a special group, and that it's special. Coming up, like you said, from 13, before you're even at the high school, before you're even playing on the Palace, to have that group, how special was it, not just knowing that group coming through, but when that final out was, how special was that, and how much more special was it because it was that group?
I mean, I think it's huge. I think it goes back to Euclid Boys League baseball and having coaches that stayed with their team and didn't move up with their parent, with their kids.
Yeah.
And I think you look at the junior high level with Terry Fritsch and some of the guys they played with at Shore. And then just getting to that high school and being prepared by some great coaches coming along the way. And believe me, being a Euclid baseball player didn't start when you got to the high school.
No,
it started with
absolutely
Euclid
not.
Boys League.
Yep.
And if you were in Euclid Boys League, that's where it all started. That's
Absolutely.
where the foundation was. And you could just see that there was a special group starting to form. And it started before the 82 group. You go back to the Marolis and
way
the
back,
Will
yeah.
Trouts and the
Back before
Ringhoffs
that,
and
yeah.
even before that. But you're right,
Absolutely.
Coach.
So
Yeah.
that gets into a little bit of that birthright and kind of, like I said, growing up in a neighboring community, kind of what we had a healthy mix of fear and respect for whenever we would play Euclid in a tournament. So you're talking about, Tommy, when you're 13, things are starting to come together. You're seeing there's a special group of guys. That also comes pretty close to coinciding with the 78 and 79.
Sure.
How much of that was an inspiration, a motivator for you guys as to, okay, these guys didn't get it done, we can?
Well, it's funny because as a young kid, you're always spending a lot of time at the park, rubber off the wall, whatever.
Right.
And then to stroll over to the Palace and listen to those cleats on the parking lot, that's what I wanted. I wanted to wear those pinstripes and have those cleats clicking across the ground, going in there and playing for Euclid baseball. So, yeah, it was very special to wear the pinstripes and to play on what was called the Palace. And I think every kid that played Euclid baseball, or Boys League, wanted that without a doubt.
Yeah, that was big for us. I felt, we used to go down and watch the Pony League and the Boys League, and they didn't know we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids actually, they really wanted to come and play for us.
Yeah.
And our crowning jewel that we stole was Mikey Guilford from St. Joe's. They're a solid St. Joe family.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Mike over, and he's player of the year when he was here. But he told his dad, he said, "No, I want to play baseball at Euclid."
I'm going to guess that you didn't have too much concern about losing the better players to whether it be St. Joe's, Benedictine, St. Ignatius, St. Ed's, anywhere.
Our kids wanted to come to Euclid.
Yeah.
So that's we had the program going, and they just wanted to be there.
And I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what it fostered, not only did it foster team chemistry and all of that, but the competition. When you're fighting for a spot on Euclid's varsity team,
You're fighting.
You're fighting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's no handouts there.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to say. I was going to ask you, Coach, because of, I mean, you're a legendary coach in the state of Ohio. There's no
His
getting
own
around.
mind, yeah.
But there's no getting around that. But to have to come and coach with groups after group after group, when the teams that you're playing are treating every game, whether it's a Wednesday,
Series,
it's
man.
like a World Series.
Yeah.
That's got to be kind of tough from that perspective.
That was good for our kids, though, because they knew it. They knew that we would tell them all the time, these guys beat you, you're going to
You can call them pinstripes, but it's really a bullseye.
Well,
Right.
sure. You would walk into the locker room when it came down to final cuts, and you were hoping you were in the top three. You really were, because so many guys went out for the team. If you're within maybe the top three at every position, then you get a chance of being on that team. It was very tough. And who didn't want to play for Paul Serra and Jeff Hartman? I mean, that's all there is to it. I went up to the fields. I used to watch the teams play that he coached before me, and you just wanted to be part of that. You wanted to be part of that.
And our feeder system was so good because we had 3 junior highs, 3 9-player teams.
Yeah.
First team.
And plus, like you brought up with Euclid Boys League.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you had that division working its way up, and even Pony League, and up through that.
The program was really top notch that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when did that change, Coach, when the ninth graders started at the high school? That's got to be right around that time,
It was
isn't
right
it?
around there, yeah, because Johnny Maroli was the first. He was a sophomore when he came in.
Okay.
But I think that was they started coming up around that time.
Gotcha.
Is that right?
No, I think it was probably after that.
Okay.
We were out in '82, and I don't know that ninth grade had started at Euclid for a while.
Carpenter played all 4 years when he was there, but that was
Okay,
90.
Actually, it was 80. It was 83 because
It was 83.
I was a seventh grader at Central. And I was in the first two class, and they had closed shore at that point.
Yeah.
in Forest Park, and so,
Yeah.
So I do want to ask you something while you're here, Coach. I saw a little brief video on YouTube from the championship, the two games, and I want to ask you a question, and then I want to say where you probably would be as a coach right now if you were to do that today. Louis Neves pitched both games, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, started the championship. So he had a win and two saves.
And a save, yeah, that was different.
Besides one of the cool statistical quirks that I just thoroughly enjoy, but
Now, I was telling Terry about the 88 game
Very
against
cool.
Benedictine where we had Sopko and Brechen and Dunmeyer over and over and over again in
Right.
a 17-inning game. You can't get away with that now. I mean,
No.
it's a completely different thing. But for the people that don't know Lou was a fantastic athlete. He two sports. I believe he didn't play basketball, but I know he played football.
He wrestled too, I believe.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
So what was it about him that said, you know what, I'm going to hand him the ball because this, and he was a junior then.
Oh yeah, but it actually was Jeff. You know, Hartman that was his job, knowing when the
So you
pitcher's
see-
good.
so you just
But
stayed
we
away
knew,
from the
I
big-
mean,
yeah.
we talked about it all the time, and he was saying, "This kid's the real deal." So okay, we're going to play him then. And like I say, he was instrumental in everything we did.
And I must say, Pat, going into that final game, state championship game, we were 33-1. So we had a pitching staff that you could probably just say, "Hey, I'm going to put my hand in the hat here," and they're probably undefeated.
Looks like a winner.
Yeah.
Looks like a winner.
Here's one, yeah.
So, but we did have our horses definitely with Jim.
it's a nice
and Louis,
luxury
for
to
sure.
have.
Yeah.
Nice luxury.
A lot
to
of
have.
solid pitching staff. I mean, geez, you just don't have those anymore.
Here's a quick stat for you. I think of the 25 guys that were on the team, there were probably only 5 guys that were not pitchers on that team that didn't pitch at some point during Euclid Boys League, junior
Yeah.
high, or whatever it was.
Whatever.
That
yeah.
makes that would make sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous.
Fantastic.
Those were great days.
Yeah.
So who
Yeah.
got the ball in this? Who started the semifinal?
We got the semifinal, but Louis pitched that one, I believe. And Mitch started the final, and then Louis came in. Something like that. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah,
like I
Louis-
said, if
Louis
Hartman was
pitched the
there, he
final.
would tell you all of it, but I don't remember all that. Mitch will tell you when he gets
Yeah.
there.
I'll tell you what. How about I do this? I'm going to take my headset off and hand it over to Kenny Ganovic like I did my
Of all the
senior
people you can hand it
my
over to,
senior
you
year
hand it
when
over
I
to
got
Kenny?
when I got hurt, when I handed over at third base to him. I'm responsible for his career.
That's right.
I just want to say that right now.
Fantastic.
Tommy,
Wow.
thank you very
you,
much
guys.
for
Yeah,
stopping
thank you.
by and helping me set this up. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you
Pat.
very
Love
much.
brother.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you very much, man.
Tommy Deanna is gonna.
Kenny.
Yeah, we were kind of worried when Tommy went down. 'Cause That's
Well,
a pretty good hole in our lineup.
yeah.
you know.
Well, Coach, since we got it,
Kenny walked right in, and
hey, Coach, since we got a quick second here, that Shaker Heights game, what happened?
you don't
I mean,
wanna know
what
that.
happened? I mean,
can't say that too loud.
no.
One of us missed a squeeze bunt in the bottom of the 7th.
See,
Which
We win.
which one of us?
We win that game. I don't want to mention any names.
All right, so let me
He's
just
here
ask-
tonight.
Is he sitting next to you?
No,
Did he run?
Kenny, you're clean.
Did he run 10 poles, Coach?
no.
No.
That's part of baseball there. That's not
Wow.
a medal there.
You must have.
That's
He was soft back then because that's a -6 mental error right
You
there.
know who's
for
running
Turtles.
10 pulls
Wait.
after the show?
Yeah,
You are.
yeah.
You are, yeah.
wait,
I ain't running 10.
Wait,
You called him
seven-
soft. That's
Yeah.
it's more than 10.
Yeah.
wait, what? Any? Because I actually have a formula for these bunts. So no,
Okay.
I'm only
No,
kidding.
no,
Only
no,
kidding.
no, no.
Only kidding. Only kidding. But
So we're joined by, at the time, junior third baseman Kenny Ganovic. Kenny, thank you for joining us, bud. You got to get right on that microphone.
yeah, come on up and
You gotta
like,
get
yep.
right up close.
Kenny, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having us here today.
No problem. So we asked Tommy. You're a year younger than these guys were. So when did you know that you guys had an opportunity to do something real special in '82?
I think we all knew it when the seniors quit playing football their senior year early in the fall, and we knew we were on to something special. This group was ready. The senior group was ready to just to roll and make history, and that's what they did.
So I didn't know that, Coach. The guys that were playing football didn't play, huh?
I don't know either.
You were concerned with that.
Oh no, that's a fact.
Yeah.
They all quit.
Who was all of them?
That whole group. Mitch.
They didn't all play football.
Lou stayed on, but Soup, Ronnie.
Oh, Ronnie,
yeah. So
those guys weren't going to play
Janch.
Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, no, they were focused on baseball.
Way to put them on Front Street, Coach. They weren't going to play anyway, so it wasn't a big deal.
So Kenny, for you as a junior in a very senior-laden lineup, and you're coming in replacing a guy who got hurt, what was that kind of breaking in period like for you until you did you feel right away that you were accepted and you were one of the guys, or did it take a little bit of you having to prove yourself a little?
Well, you always have to prove yourself playing for the Pinstripes and Mr. Serra.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Serra and Mr. Hartman broke me in very gradually. I was a third baseman. I didn't even hit for myself for a good 6-7 games. Then they let me have a few at-bats, but there was never any pressure on me. When you're playing with 8 great guys, it was more my job to play a little defense and don't screw it up. Let the other guys. And, when you're playing with 8 rock stars, and they were, and them, I'm talking about the 8, but the guys that backed them up also, we were so deep. We were talking about it today. We could probably field 2 teams and be competitive.
And we had 24 kids on the roster for that. And the hardest thing to do was when you get down to state, you can only dress 18.
Which ones to you?
We had to dress 18, and the other 6 guys, it's a tough one.
And you
But
picked
they
him?
got to sit on the bench.
I was a Slovenian. It was a Slovenian lady community.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a starter. We had no problem.
I was telling the guys I watched the little video today that's on YouTube about the semi and the championship game, and I remarked to Terry that the funniest thing in the whole thing, because obviously I remember it like it was yesterday for you guys, but watching you celebrate, you look like an 11-year-old kid. You were
I think they all did.
No, but I mean, you looked especially young considering,
And
I'm like, when did they let a Pony League guy play third base? It was.
I felt young, believe me.
Yeah.
You weren't shaving then, were you?
No.
You're
not shaving now either.
So you obviously, Tommy had a lot of aspirations as a senior, obviously, and it didn't work out for him. But knowing the character of Tommy Deanna, I'm sure that he was one of your biggest supporters as you guys move forward.
When I made the team, because I truly didn't even think I would make the team. My dad, his best advice to me ever was, when you get cut from Euclid, go to St. Joe's. You might be able to make that team. But when I made that team, it was Tommy Deanna and Joey Eifleys came to my house and picked me up, and they took me out to dinner to celebrate.
Awesome.
So, yeah, Tommy Deanna.
That's the kind of kids we had, though.
Yeah.
And the parents were just outstanding. And, they were party animals, but they were all right.
Yeah, because I asked Tommy along the same lines. How special was it having that group and being able to celebrate with those guys and celebrate a championship that way, coming up with them, and like you said, having these guys that take you in and take you under their wing. When it doesn't always happen for underclassmen. There is some territorial stuff that'll happen every once in a while, and so how? I guess not. I'm trying to think of the right word to say, but I guess gratifying, probably for lack of a better term, was it when that final out was made and you guys are, hey, there's none left. That's it. We're the cream of the crop.
To this day, there's never been a feeling for me. I played a lot of ball games after that, but nothing will ever match that day.
Nothing matches that. No. Ronnie Saponsi catches that fly ball, and that was it.
Yep.
As a former first baseman yourself and infielder, obviously, at the pro level and in college, what was it like to have that group, that infield you had was pretty good?
Oh, they were solid, I'll tell you. It was fun hitting infield because they could make the plays. And like Tommy said, and we beat a lot of teams just by taking infield practice because we had it ball moving, and God, it was It's like an orchestra.
Actually, I had commented we were at a district final the other day, and I had commented the way that the team was hitting infield. They were running spring training. They were running pitcher to first base.
I saw that. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what that is, but that's not how you take infield on the Palace. I know that.
So Kenny, for you, obviously the trip to Columbus is the be-all, end-all. Coach talked about the comeback game against Willoughby South. Was there a game for you that stood out in that season?
Championship game.
Well, I'm saying besides those, because that's the obvious answer.
Right.
But, was there a game during the regular season where you said, "All right,
We're going.
We're going"?
I think it was Jimmy Mitch's home run against Brush.
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That was a big one.
we were ready to be beaten, and Jimmy Mitch came up and launched one into the parking lot. And at that point, we pretty much figured this was a magical season.
And was that in the tournament or was that regular season?
No, that was
Regular
regular
season,
season.
Regular season.
But there were so many special things that happened that year. It was we just knew we knew it was our time. If we listened to Coach Serra and Coach Hartman, we knew that with our coaching staff, we were going to beat the other team. It wasn't that we were great players. We were part of a great organization, coached by the two greatest coaches maybe that high school's ever seen in Ohio.
Oh, geez.
Well,
No, that's a fact, Coach.
I second that all day long.
Your record speaks for itself.
Well, I guess the question I have is when you guys got down to Columbus, you were it was old hat for you at that point because you had two
Not
teams.
really.
No,
It's
but
never all that.
no,
Yeah.
but you understand what
Yeah.
you kind of know what to expect
Know
because
what
you
to
had been there.
expect. Yeah.
What was it like taking the field that first in the semifinal when you first got to the park? For the people out there that didn't get a chance to experience it, what is that feeling like?
Your heart is beating a mile
A lot
a
of
minute.
jitters.
Yeah, but because of our infield, because of our infield outfield drills that we did, our pregame workout, I think that settles us in more so than the other team. We're doing so much before the game, and like Coach said, when the other team's watching us, and that include some of the great teams we were playing in the finals, they were in awe of what we were doing. And to this day, I've coached a long, long time. I don't know what you did or how you did it, but I can't duplicate it. I
Can't
wish.
hit that infield?
No.
Oh, you can tell them what to do. It just it's funny. He's absolutely right. It can't be duplicated. I've never seen anybody ever do it.
Often imitated, never duplicated, right?
That's
And
it.
what about the little Sean they're doing, Hart and Sarah, during the
Yeah.
infield?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking all
Yeah.
the time.
Oh my gosh. You had the other coaches Buffalo. It was a great deal.
I was just hoping Hart wouldn't. I was hoping he'd be here tonight, and I was hoping he didn't bring the fungo. That's
Oh, he would have had it.
Yeah.
He's got it with him right now watching the kids play, I'm sure. I guarantee you that.
Coach, to follow up on Pat's question, because you had the experience of having been there a few times before, how much easier did that make it for this trip in '82?
I don't know if I felt any easier at all. Everything's separate. And, when we went the other two times, we didn't come back with the trophy. So everybody's telling us we have a monkey on our back. We never felt that way. Our kids played hard no matter what. But we were able to at least talk to the kids about the experience of being there and what you got to face and how you got to prepare yourself and get some sleep the night before instead of horsing around and all that kind of stuff.
Was there anything different that you maybe did in that trip and you used the phrase "get the monkey off your back"?
Not really, I don't think. He was about the same. Yeah, I don't think we did anything different.
Believed in what you did and
We
how
just
you did it,
believed it, yeah.
and that this time it was going to work.
Yeah, that's all we could do, yeah.
Or that you had Mitch and Louis.
Of course, that had a little bit to do with it, yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna ask.
You had
this.
great pitching staffs in '78 and '79.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Will Trout and Rowley, jeez. They were, as a sophomores and juniors, they were the top two pitchers in the state.
And I think it does point out that with that one and done, you can't have an off day.
Which is
have an
exactly
update.
what I was going to ask, Coach. This is a serious question. As the coach of a program that everybody and I'm not. This isn't hyperbole. It's true. Everybody envied.
Oh yeah.
The program never got to some of the heights of some of the other schools. Some of the smaller schools were able to do. And did anybody ever question that from even publicly or privately to you, like
About what now?
about how you were never able to get over the hump but the one time?
I don't know. Probably people did. They never said anything to me about it.
Nothing
Yeah.
to you. Because I always wondered, because I had an argument when we first started this with somebody that was a Euclid graduate but not a player,
Okay.
trying to tell me what success looks like.
Okay.
And to me, success is there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
like
yeah.
St. Ignatius winning 7 football championships or something like that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's, to me, it goes beyond, because you can only crown one champion.
Yeah,
and
right.
you guys were champs, and you'll always be champs. But I don't think that takes away from your overall program. Would you agree?
I agree
Yeah.
completely. Yeah. Our program, I thought, was solid all the way through, whether we won or lost. You know, we were solid.
Did you ever have a non-20 win season while you were coaching?
I think the 80 team didn't win 20.
The 80 team didn't?
I don't think
Okay.
so. I can't remember.
Yeah. Because we were trying to figure that out.
Yeah. I have the record somewhere at home. I could look it up, but I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
So, Kenny,
You better get me out of here, though. I got to
yeah,
go back
I
to the
know.
park.
Yeah. Got to get them games in, Coach. Yeah, we'll let Coach go.
Right on the half hour, too.
That's right. He knows.
Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
He knows.
He had it to a T.
This is amazing. The smartphone thing. When it used to be all paper, you know what I'm talking. All paper.
Mm-hmm.
Games might be called off. The scorekeeper called. So.
Uh-oh.
Well, you better get there.
All right.
Coach, thank you very much for your
Yes,
time as always.
Coach, yes, as always. Thank
Thank
you.
for having me, and it's always a pleasure to see these kids again.
Yeah, I know they're always. All your teams have a place in your heart, but this team's got
Special
your
place
heart.
always,
Yeah,
yeah.
it does.
Thank you
So
guys.
thank you,
again.
Coach.
Okay, thank you.
Great to
Yeah,
have
thank
you,
you.
Coach. Greatly appreciate
Always a
your time.
pleasure.
Sarah.
Always a pleasure.
Who's next?
Come on, Mauser, get in here.
Come on. Oh, this guy. Now we're gonna.
We were actually both teammates of this guy's.
Yes.
All right, I'll see it.
Thanks, Coach.
So we do just put these on.
I will say
And then
this
talk into the mic.
from a Class A perspective. I can tolerate Jimmy way more than I can tolerate Kenny, because Kenny played for Shannon Fence, and
Well, Jimmy was a
absolutely-
dual
Say something
threat.
about this headset?
Huh?
It's about as small as you can get for that.
Yeah.
So I
I knew that was coming.
But Jimmy was a dual threat in Class A
Why is that?
because he could mash.
Oh yeah, he was a pitcher that can mash.
He could mash. One flap down, little Jeffrey Leonard all summer long, man.
Jim, you're gonna have to get up on that mic though, bud.
Closer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. We are
You
joined.
can raise the mic if you need to.
We
too.
are joined by one of two of the All Ohio players from that '82 team. Pitcher / infielder / masher, Jimmy Mitch.
I didn't mash like ice back then. but
No,
Later.
you got to get up on.
Damn it,
The,
Kenny.
the junior has to tell the senior how to
So
get it done.
Fantastic.
Wait a minute, Jim. I told these guys a story before off air. I said the one thing Jim told me when I cracked the starting lineup was don't say anything, don't talk, don't screw up. Just try to help us a little.
You helped us a lot. I don't know how many hits in a row do you have? that
Newt
one?
Rockney, Jimmy Mitch.
I can't tell the difference, Pat. How about you?
I don't know if I was a motivator or.
It worked.
Intimidator. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So, Jim, we've been asking everybody this same question. You had varsity experience as a sophomore. So, by the time you got to senior year, what about this group made you think, yeah, this is the group that has an opportunity to do this?
Well, it's Hart and Sarah were the soul of it, and they just knew how to orchestrate teams. So I never, ever wavered in knowing what their plan was. And their plan, literally, after they lost – I don't know if you talked about it, but they lost back-to-back 78 and 79, 3-2, 3-2. And I was 8th, 9th grade, so 9th grade wasn't in the high school. And, you know, one of the things we were just, like, enamored watching that. And then when you get there, you know, you just trusted what these guys were doing. I mean, I was telling Sarah a story about Hart. It's football-related, and it was the first time he put eyes on me as a sophomore. And I already – kind of knew I was playing because Maroli was done for the year. He had shoulder surgery, and so I was expected to play. And Hart just looked at me, probably thumped me in the chest and said, yeah, you got a lot to do. And it was like the first time he met me. And I was not scared of them, but I didn't never want to let them down. And it was easy. I trusted them. And our JV team, when I was a sophomore, they were like 21-2 or something. Like they beat everybody. And the next year, we were probably better than our state team. And a lot of these guys were helping by them. We had a junior-laden team with some really good senior pitching. And then it just led up to the next thing, which was our summer before. And we were about as tight as you could be. And we still are, all these guys to this day. It was just, we just had something in common that we wanted to do. And Hart and Sarah were they were the big reason. I can't say more than that. It was just they made us better just by challenging us all the time. You played for them. They never let you off the hook. And it was,
during school.
Oh,
Not just in practice, during school.
Well,
I don't know how you guys know this. Hartman had that room with the little room between.
Yeah.
Quite a few meetings in that little room between.
you talk about a guy who had a full schedule. He would do his classes, and then he had meetings all day with kids, all day, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. And I was lucky to have him as a teacher too. I never had Sarah because I sucked at math, but
Here we go.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's a really neat thing like in the news journal. I mean, is that even a paper anymore?
No.
Okay.
What's a paper? No. Yeah, I mean, really, yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
I still like reading print though for some reason. I guess that's my age, but the news journal, like they Bob Fortuna I think it was him that interviewed us, right? He was umpiring then too.
Yep.
He asked us all for quotes. And if you ever get a chance, go back and read it because there's some really good stuff in there. Gordy McCann's funny, Gordy. But and I still remember what I said. I said, we just wanted to win it for Mr. Serra because I thought back about 78, 79 and how he must have felt losing. And we almost lost that year, but we didn't. So,
You know, one of the things you mentioned about coming up in, as Patty mentioned, you had varsity experience as a sophomore. Coming up through that, I think there are some people that I think you have to understand what kind of commitment that really takes from you. I know Terry knows this, Pat knows this. His kids know this. I've known this from, you've been on championship programs. The commitment that it really takes, not just the games themselves, and it's not even just being at practice. It's what you're putting into every day at practice and in those games. What kind of commitment was it? Not just the championship year, but to get it to that crescendo.
well,
Not the word of the day.
They basically would always have us on a plan, but they never deterred us from other sports. Like you hear in high schools now, this coach doesn't want you to do this, and they don't want you to do that. They embraced us playing all the other sports, and they kept their eye on us. But coming from Euclid, we weren't a well-off city, and I wasn't from a well-off family, so I never really thought it was a commitment. I just didn't know any better, and I like today still think about like players, and when I watch kids, it's easy to coach kids that love the game. Mm-hmm. We love the game, every single one of us. Mm-hmm. Patrick knows what I'm talking about because he comes from a baseball family. Mm-hmm. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the guys that I modeled after. Maybe not my whole life, but the 70s, Euclid, those guys, you talk about commitment.
Yeah.
They played for Addis, and then they played for Sarah. And these guys, Drobnik, Langdon, Kasunik, Angle King. I mean, if I don't mention everybody, I apologize. But these guys were unbelievable, and that's who we looked after. So when it came to commitment, and we worked hard. I mean, Patrick knows this as well. We were probably, a lot of us could have run track. You may not look at me now, but I could run a sub 6 mile, no problem.
And you had to in the indoor track during conditioning. Yeah.
Remember Daisy Chains?
Yeah.
And
I know of them.
So that commitment, you're absolutely right. But I don't know, I'm sure I bitched and moaned back then, but I'm probably not allowed to swear in the air here.
Well, don't worry, we've done it many times.
But it really didn't seem like work. And I'll just share this little story. You mentioned commitment. My So I played football, basketball as sophomore, baseball, and then football, baseball as a junior. Then I quit.
I already told this story.
Oh, you did tell
Oh,
him?
he let into it. Yes.
Yeah, he let into it,
We
yeah.
had, I think, 7 seniors quit the football team. We were all baseball players. Now, Sarah and Hart caught a lot of flack for that, but that was all our decision. So, they caught all the grief and they handled it. But so after that was all done,
So, Jim, hold on a second. So when you say that you guys quit, step us through that. Did you guys make a decision before the summer that you weren't playing, or did you guys actually start to go through it and reach the conclusion that you weren't going to be playing because of baseball?
Yeah, well, we really had a great summer. We were 54-6 or something, and we played
6. Really?
What happened? Arm troubles with the staff? What?
Yeah, 60 games, brother.
Yeah.
We played Elmer Flick, high school, post 343, and played a bunch of exhibitions too. So we were playing together, and we're all like, and I don't want to mention names, but we didn't really respect the football coach compared to.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to call anybody out.
No.
So.
Compared to our baseball coaches.
But if you were going to call him out, who would? No,
I won't.
only kidding. Only kidding.
No, we were like, and Rich, and when I was a 10th grader, Rich Wiltrout, who easily was a D1 recruit, ended up going to BG, played with Oral Hershiser, but never really panned out, whatever. But Rich blew his knee out his senior year, and he missed like the first 15 games, and we lost Maroli.
That was when you were a sophomore,
Yeah,
and that was what told you knew you were going to play as a sophomore, right?
Yes, exactly. So come my senior year, we were like, oh no, we're just like it kind of went down the line. And Joe, I was not a captain. Joe Eiffelis was a tri-captain. I would have started probably tight end or linebacker or something, but we all looked at each other and said, guys, let's try and win this thing this year. And let's spend the fall doing some fall ball, and way different than it is now with fall ball. But we all decided, and Joe was the quarterback. So that was a big hit. Me leaving wasn't a big hit, but it's funny. As soon as Joe quit, I literally got a phone call 2 days later. Hey, we need you. We want you to quarterback. I'm like, okay, right. I'm going to say yes after my shortstop just said no.
Yeah.
You know what
Gotcha.
I mean? I knew I'd be quarterback, but and we stuck with it. Now, the end of that story is, so we might have drank a couple beers that year during the fall, not playing. I'm just going to say it out loud. But
Sarah, only a couple, so
just
it's
a
not
couple.
a big deal.
They can't come back and get you now. You're good.
No, I won't lose any eligibility.
No.
But Hart and Sarah made me wrestle my senior year. Now, you think about that today, telling a kid that's never wrestled, hey, go wrestle. You have to wrestle. And I'm like, what? And all my good friends.
After you've just made the decision amongst a group of people to not play football.
Yeah,
right?
So I stuck it out. And they actually had a bet with Bill Adamati, who used to be the old coach, that Adamati said I wouldn't make it. I made it through. 500 record, whatever. But that commitment of never doing it and sticking it out in my mind today still is as big as some of my baseball things, because you look at a wrestling mat, there's a circle on it.
Yep.
And by the way, you guys need to do a wrestling show.
Do you know any wrestlers?
My son's the head coach at Lake Catholic.
There we go.
But no,
I
There we
see
go.
it up, and he looks at me like I'm
No
nuts.
problem.
Of course.
I can tell. I'm a Lake Catholic graduate, so yeah.
yeah. Well, you guys should seriously do a preview next year, whatever.
Absolutely.
And I could get him on the show. So.
All right, there we go.
Do you have that kind of poll?
Sometimes. Sometimes. So
Hey, I know the Mayfield cross country coach too, in case you want to.
You guys are getting us into all kinds of sports we have no expertise in, but that's okay. No
we
problem.
can work through that.
going back to what I was saying, so sticking it out, the circle of the center of the mat is the same size as the pitcher's mound. So that played a huge part of my season. My senior, I had a pretty decent senior season. And Hart and Sarah also said to me, yeah, we want you coming in at 195, not 225.
Oh, by the way, explain how long 3 minutes on that mat really is.
It's actually 6 minutes.
3 minutes for the period, though, right?
That's the college. College is
College is
3-2-2. That's 7. But In high school, it's 2-2-2.
2-2-2.
Yeah, it's
How that 2 minutes for that first period, that don't feel like 2 minutes.
It's 120 seconds, Kenny.
I got a question for Kenny
Yeah.
because over the years, I know you're involved with the Alumni Association, and it's very easy to say that you guys are all close because of the championship, but I don't think that that's really it. I think whether you guys won it or didn't win it, what is it about your group that makes you guys so tight-knit?
God, it goes back to when we were little kids.
Euclid baseball.
I mean, it started at 8, 9, 10 years old, and those rec leagues that were as competitive as any travel leagues are today, playing against each other, finding out that we had a lot in common on the field.
The junior high system too, incredible. I mean, Schmo, Fritch, Turkle. I mean, what
System
feeders
beyond belief.
had those guys? I mean, a lot of Fritch was crazy,
Right.
but I'll tell you, he knew
He
the
could coach.
game.
He could coach,
He
man.
knew the game. Did you go to Shore Central?
I went to Central.
Okay. Fritch, and I knew the Swinsky family too.
Yep.
And all three of those guys were just
And I'm glad that you
superb
brought up
coaches.
Smo because he doesn't get a lot of due.
No.
Nope. He gets
I mean, there's a lot of guys that have come through and coached at the middle school level. He did a fantastic job at Forest Park. man.
Absolutely.
He turned out a lot of
No, the
really
Forest
good
Park
players.
kids were always
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
so I'm just-
but he turned out a lot. Even though they were different, he was able to turn them into
My
halfway
pal-
decent ball players.
one of my
you know?
best pals, Harry Yancho, was
Yeah.
a Forest Park kid. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
That explains Tommy Lewin then, too.
Yes,
Exactly.
He was a Forest because I played with him at Case, and he was a Forest Park kid, so
Exactly.
that explains a lot.
There
I
is.
appreciate you clearing that up for me.
Hey, my cousin went to Forest Park. I understand.
It's
So I have-
something my wife did too. So
I have 2 questions for you, Jim. So, you guys talk about it started when you guys were little kids. You guys get into junior high, and they go 78, 79. How much of a motivator was that for you guys? And I'm going to guess that somewhere along there that somebody on this 82 team, there was a brother, a cousin, a couple of neighbors who were part of that 78, 79 that maybe gave you guys a little bit keener interest and maybe was that big motivator to say, hey, they didn't get it done, we're going to.
we had a little chip on our shoulder for sure, and they were a big motivator. But I'd watch those games, and Dean Fazio and John Leovich, and I mean I could go down.
Was your brother on those? Was Mike on those team, or was Mike a little bit
Mike's
older?
in the 60s. He played with Ricky Brown, and if you ever want to talk about Ricky
Yeah.
Brown's from my neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got stories about him, watching him grow up, and that was another like. I grew up at Irvine, which wasn't a big school. I mean, how many elementary schools did Euclid have back in the day? 14?
It was something like that.
Yeah, there was a ton.
Yeah.
14.
Until
So
they
you
rolled,
talk about these schools.
they rolled over on Noble and Wells.
Right,
and,
right.
Yeah.
But other than
Right.
I was growing up, they were all
Upson,
yeah.
Wells, Upson's rebuilt.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they're all rebuilt now, but
Yeah, but I mean, no, you're right.
Yeah.
There was a ton there at that time.
you won't duplicate the Euclid system like it was. I think it was just a perfect time. Everything's, I don't know, it's different. I mean, you live in.
No, it was a 30-year run.
Yeah, it
That's
was-
what we said before. I don't think you're
From-
ever going to see anything like that.
Yeah.
Little stat: the year I was born and the year I graduated, Euclid won a state championship, 63 and 82.
There you
And
go.
I was always really proud of that. Like,
Yeah.
I used to remember driving down the street and they had the sign, state champs, 1963. And, and I loved baseball. I was just, I loved it. I'm like, you do that. And,
Man, Pat, all these guys, have these fun little stats they like to throw out.
well, the funny and another
No,
guy.
quirky
that's-
like that.
We were
It's
talking,
fantastic.
We're talking about coaches.
Yeah.
One of the guys that played on that 63 team, which was
Raleigh.
Hudak, was one of my favorite coaches
Raleigh.
ever. And he took on the freshman team when they had a freshman. You guys
Tom
didn't have-
Murphy was on that team.
Yeah,
that got
Tommy
drafted.
Murphy.
Yeah.
Nosick,
Yep. Joe Nassif.
Joe Nosick. I mean that was a great group. That was a really great group. And to talk about that, that the teams in the 68, that team, they had some fantastic players on there. There's records at Kent State. Ricky Brown basically went in there and
He-
got Thurman
He
Munson.
demolished Thurman
Munson's-
Munson's record.
Yeah.
Ricky Brown, there's a story in our neighborhood. I lived across the street from this lot, and they used to pitch him basketballs, and his wrists were so strong. You ever hit a basketball with a bat? If you
It's
don't
not
hit
easy.
it.
Oh, you got to hit that
If you
thing.
don't hit it right, that bat's going to hit you in the head.
Yeah.
And he would hit the ball, I'm telling you, hit the basketball like 200 feet. Crazy.
Yeah, he was crazy. Coach Brown was crazy.
So here's my second question then, Jim. You brought up something that I've brought up a number of times. You said that you were afraid to let them down, referring to Coach Serra and Coach Hartman. How much did that play into your decision making when they came to you and asked you to wrestle?
I didn't think twice about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I first met Hart to play in that first year, I truly trusted him. I mean, I had in my junior year, like I said, we had a great team. My sophomore year, I saw a lot of things that, we had some malcontent seniors at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We had lost. We're still playing the string out, and that wasn't what these guys were about. So I saw a couple lessons taught then, and I was like, no, I'm never putting myself in that position.
And do you think maybe part of that was a little bit of hangover from having lost in 78 and 79 for those guys?
There was,
like they felt like maybe they were cursed or something?
we had a perfect storm. A couple kids got in trouble for some things, so that we had some kids out for the first 12 games. So we never really gelled as a team. And then they brought Joe and I up as sophomores, and that pissed a lot of
I was going to
seniors
say
off.
that had to.
Because they didn't bring us up to sit, they brought us up to play.
Sure, right.
And we played. I batted fifth on that team as a sophomore, and that was a good team. And they weren't afraid to play us. And that literally, when the sophomores came up to be seniors with us, we were kind of like the anointed captains, and they followed everything we said, and we followed everything they said. So
I think it was one of the things I mentioned earlier about when you come in after an injury, you're coming in and hey, here's what I got to do. I got to do my part. How are you guys being the senior class with the junior coming up now? Like you mentioned, how much did that play a role now in? Hey, now we got an underclassman coming in to help.
I
How
think
much
we
did that
embraced
play
it
in?
pretty well.
You did.
I
real
mean,
quick, too.
It didn't sound like it. The way you
Yeah.
described it didn't sound like
Yeah.
it.
we were rough on
That's
them.
tough love, right?
They'd rather have one of their buddies. Yes,
It's a part of hazing a little
Right.
bit. I mean, I hate to use that word, I
Yeah.
guess, but
it was Tommy's position. It was other
Yeah.
guys' position. I was 3-4 deep. It was just like you said, the perfect storm.
You were just the next guy up, basically.
that was
at
it. It
point,
wasn't.
right?
I had no business
That-
being in that lineup. It
that
was
same.
those guys.
But you did though. You did. You got in the lineup and you did exactly what you were supposed to do, and you made great plays at third. I mean, I can remember them like it's yesterday. So you answered the bell like we all had to.
Yep.
And John Donette, who's here, and Paul Atkins have a little bit of a unique story. Paul was sick, right? And John was starting against Padua, right?
I don't know what game it was, but yeah,
He got hurt on the double
Yes.
double play, and Paul was, John came in, and then he was gone for the remainder of the tournament, and then John played a key role when Paul was sick in a big game. I mean, we beat Padua 4-2, and Bruce Benedict had not hit that whole year after having a huge summer. It's a 2-run bomb to lift us. So it was like we just had guys step up. It wasn't me, it wasn't Louie, it wasn't Joe. It was just literally Hugo. Hugo played left field without hitting the whole year. I think he got a couple of bats, but
And how smooth was Bruce at first, though?
unbelievable.
Was it? I mean, you just throw anywhere in that direction.
Our
Pick it up.
infield, we were, and Nils still alive? Nils used to do the pals?
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
Oh man.
Actually, we were just talking about Nils the other day.
Yeah.
Nils used to do, so his sole job was the pals. I don't know if you ever talked about that on there. I think
Well,
you
actually,
did.
he did. He
But
did,
towards
he did,
the end-
yeah, he did the football field
Yeah.
too.
He would grow the grass to Hart's level. I'm telling you, and Hart, we
Take
never,
the scissors out and cut it.
and literally we were taught to throw two seamers because they would go down and in, and we just threw ground balls all day. There was
Easy ground
our
balls.
infield, the infield wouldn't even play deep. Like you see how deep some high school kids play now. Our guys played regular depth because they knew we were going to give up two hoppers.
Which also helped a lot with the bunt game too. I mean, for us, as far as that being part of the strategy. Kenny, I want to ask you a question because you've coached a long time.
Against you.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to ask you about coaching. First of all, I can see it. I see a lot of Coach Serra and Coach Hart in the way that you coach. What do you bring? What do you bring from that experience to your coaching? And more importantly, what do you find the most difficult thing when you're trying to translate what you went through in your experience to the kids that you coach?
What I try to bring to every game that I coach is a calming effect. Because when you played for Hart and Sarah, there was no yelling and screaming from a dugout. Coaching was done. Wait, you got
Yeah,
yelled
yelled
at?
at. Practice.
Like not during the game. No embarrassment.
No, ever,
No.
never.
And then, and I see a lot of this screaming that goes on today with other coaches. And what I brought is that type of calming effect, I hope, to my players. The hardest thing nowadays is, like Jimmy said, these kids today, they do not have the love of the game. They truly don't. They might like to come out and play
Have too
a
many
game.
options.
And Jim, what I've always said, the scourge of baseball is the roster batting. When you can bat 11, 12, 13 kids. I have kids that come up to me all the time and say, my leg hurts or I got a headache. Can I sit out this inning? Could you imagine sitting out?
You know what else drives me crazy? These kids list themselves as POs now. I'm just a pitcher only. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How are you just a pitcher only? You're a
You're
baseball
11.
player. You're
Yeah.
a baseball player.
That's the biggest part. You're 11. Yeah, you're a baseball player.
Well, actually, Coach Serra had been on our show one other time. He was actually with Coach Woods, who's another, legend in Ohio.
He's coaching
VA.
VA. I saw it. Yeah.
First year,
Yeah, nice
he
team
got him.
this year. I saw you guys covered that game.
Got him to the district final in his first
I
year.
can't root for him though. So
No,
sorry.
That was a treat for me though, because I got a chance to interview a guy that I played for, because I played for my freshman
That's
year
awesome.
case, and
That's awesome.
think the world of the guy. And yeah, having both of those guys on, the amount of those guys have forgotten more baseball than we ever knew.
Did you guys mention Sarah's record from 78 to 82? I'm sure Paul will. I better not steal it from him.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Go ahead and steal it from him.
I would just
Take his line.
No.
having Coach on and asking him, I had just asked him about did he ever catch any flack for only winning one time? Because I had a huge argument with a Euclid grad at one point about that. And my example was, is Bill Gutbrod one of the greatest coaches in the history of the state of Ohio? And everybody's, yeah, well, he only won one state title. I mean,
How many schools outside of parochial schools have won multiple titles?
right, not
Not
many,
many.
Guess what? It's not easy to do.
because there's only one winner.
Yeah, there's only one.
Well,
Yeah.
we were talking about it too, is that OSHA doesn't really promote community baseball.
They do everything they can to.
Yeah,
prevent it.
they basically they push this club baseball thing, which, listen, I know clubs are making money, blah, 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 but that's another downfall too is, you got 9 MVPs on a team and you're not getting a team to play together with 8 kids that you're going to play with in your high school. So it's,
Well, that was what I was going to ask you guys, because I've said it many times on many of our shows, but you guys have a unique perspective because you had just said you won 56 games in the summer prior. Being that the Euclid summer team, that in itself was the precursor. I wouldn't call it travel baseball, but that's what it was.
do you remember wanting to make the Legion
Oh,
team?
absolutely.
That feeling?
When I'll tell you right now, my sophomore year, when Coach said, "Hey, you're going to be playing on the Legion team," that was one of my favorite moments ever.
I still remember Joe Eiffelise got asked to play on the Legion team after 9th grade, and I didn't, and I was devastated. But, you learn from it, and
I had to wait till my 11th grade. I didn't even.
we were a little deep.
I know. I know.
But no,
But
you're right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
He was our leading hitter in the tournament, and yeah, I know.
How many? And I didn't really get into it with Coach, but cuts were a big part of it. And when there's 40 kids going out, you can only keep so many, and that's the foster of the competition part.
There was kids that moved. Keith Will. Remember?
Yeah.
I don't remember Keith Will.
By the way,
Keith Will moved to Willoughby
Yeah, went to South.
because he couldn't play. He couldn't start at Euclid.
and by the way, how
And had a
rough
pretty
was
decent
And
career
I
there
like Keith
too.
was a good pitcher.
Yeah, Wilbur threw hard.
I didn't really get a chance to ask Mr. Serra this because he mentioned at one point, he did mention it was rough, but how rough was it for the kids, the ones that couldn't dress for that, for the tournament, for the, those couple of games there?
Yeah, we had. I think
not
we
be easy.
rostered 24.
24, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. We had our own fan club within our.
That was the
But-
thing about that video.
Yeah.
I was like, who are all
Who are these guys?
I'm like, they're letting them on the field, but then I realized that they were actually on the team.
Yeah, we had 24 guys rostered, and and then you could only put 16, I think.
18, I think is what Coach
yeah.
said. Yeah, I think they've expanded it to 20 nowadays.
And he
but
changed it as I don't know if you had to do it in the beginning of the tournament or you could change it.
I think you
weekly.
could do it game by game.
Yeah. So, but those kids, you would have never known they were disappointed. They were. I can name them: Barrich, Piper, who else? Stacy Jones,
Helen Best.
Furman,
Mike
Callahan. Mike Ellenbest. Yeah. I mean, but they were all part of the team, even though they didn't play. And that's
It was everybody's team, and everybody feels that way to this day.
our parents. I don't know, I've mentioned this, but I'm sure Paul will talk about it too. Our parents were as close as we were too. So it was really, I hate to say it was easy, but that's how I remember it, you know? I mean,
You talk about the biggest thrill when we make the American Legion team, which you guys had that thrill much earlier than me. But what was the other one?
You're not
The
bitter,
first-
though, are you,
No,
Kenny?
I'm not bitter at all. Hey, what was the
I'll
other
get over it
biggest
someday,
thrill?
right?
When you put the big blue coat on
Yeah.
for the first time,
Yeah.
and they told you never to wear it outside. Couldn't get out fast enough on Friday night to wear that.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a special feeling. And when I moved to Aurora, I kind of try to instill that in my coaching as well. You know, I coached travel all the way up in Cooperstown through whatever.
Quite a few Euclid guys out there.
Yeah, Carpy's out there, and you saw Carpy's kid
Yeah.
in for
Yeah.
Ohio State. Yeah, and he's got another boy going to Penn State next 2 years.
Penn
And
State's getting everybody from
Yeah, they're
around
really
here.
picking up a lot of kids from this
they're the
area.
bottom. That coach just left too, and they're the bottom of the Big Ten, but they're getting recruits. So, yeah, I mean, talking about Kenny's coaching, it's a lot of people rejected how we approach baseball, and we're not yellers. I wanted to concentrate on defense and pitching, and all these other kids, let's just hit. I'm like, dude, you got to catch the ball, you catch and pitch, and scrape a couple of runs. We'll win games. And everyone wants to.
Spoken like a true pitcher.
I do like the NL,
Yeah.
and not the Indians.
Right.
Even though I argue with you on Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
That sounds like the what the Indians are trying to follow this year.
Yeah, no
They
hitting?
figured, we'll pitch and we'll play defense.
They're not even pitching.
Well, I'm gonna leave you guys with this, both of you, this question. 37 years later, is it still?
Thanks for aging everybody.
I'm 55. Yeah. You 54?
44.
Shut up.
His beard is like, it looks like it's from the Civil War.
He just
over there.
played Ulysses Grant a week ago.
Yeah, that was just up in his place
Right,
in
right.
Willoughby.
Jesus.
I thought he was Jeb Stewart.
Does it still ring as special to you guys today as it did all those years
I'll
ago?
let you answer first.
You know what? I don't think there's a week that goes by that I don't think about it. And yeah, it is as special today as it was 37 years ago. And the only thing that tarnishes it all is how many times do we think about Gary Castle?
I think about Gary a lot. He's my catcher, and the dude was a real special kid. I mean,
We lost him, how many years ago? He was the first to go. No.
10, maybe 8 to 10. Yeah, Diane, I talked to her on Facebook the other day, his sister. So, yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
Sad.
The greatest time of my life. Hey, it was downhill after 18. How pathetic.
Because you were one of those Shannon Fence guys.
Yeah, but
you guys all have kids here, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you get made
his
fun of.
records are sealed, but
Yeah.
So you get made of fun of probably
Never been to Belize.
dad jokes and all that. So
Yes.
when Mr. Serra was on, I was kind of commenting on the comments and stuff, because I think you guys do an excellent job, and I love what you guys do for high school sports.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. man.
Super awesome, and you need more of this. But
We walked into it. Anyways,
no, it's awesome. But I think about it all the time, and then when I told my kids about this show, like we have this family text, whatever, and I swear they had to be laughing, like, can't believe Dad's so excited about going on but it was.
Anytime I talk about baseball in front of my kids, they start singing Bruce Springsteen's "Glory Days." To me, it's amazing, without fail.
We're lucky to have what we have, because I don't think a lot of people are able to experience what we experienced, and that's one of the special times of my life.
But I think, and honestly, that's why those memories stick.
Yep.
To be flat out honest with you.
Well, the
It's-
lessons Hart and Sarah taught us too. I mean, Patrick knows this too. Sarah really wasn't the disciplinarian. Hart was. There was a good cop, bad cop, and I'll tell you, everything Hart taught me, and I'll leave you with this story. I'll give the microphone to somebody else. When I was a junior, talk about getting full of yourself. I was batting fourth, junior, on probably top 10 ranked team. I think I struck out 3. This is a scrimmage preseason. I think I struck out twice. Once was looking, whatever, and coming back to the dugout, I laid down some words that probably weren't too becoming of me, and Hart goes, Mitch, 30 pulls. Just like that. I mean, it's a scrimmage. You can do whatever you want. I mean, you put whoever in. I'm like, So I go out and run 3 miles, and it was like 4th inning, whatever. I come in, it's bottom of the 7th, and just go get loose. You're in. Like it was like one of those lessons. Like, don't ever show up to the team. Don't This is what we're about. And to this day, I remember all that stuff.
Well, I really, like I said, this is. I hate to sound like the 12-year-old kid I was when you guys won it, but
Is that how old you were?
I was 12. And it's funny.
You and Matty Carp same age?
No, he's 2 years 90, right?
He's 2
Well,
years
yeah,
older.
Matt's younger, yeah.
Younger. Okay.
Younger. Yeah, he played as a freshman. when
Okay.
was-
Yeah, I remember that.
Or junior, I should say. But watching you guys, and obviously getting to play against you guys later on in Class A, you guys.
Did I ever face you?
Yeah.
How'd you do?
I didn't do it.
I don't remember.
think
I was going to say he don't remember either.
No.
That's okay.
I think Cooney probably had you throw at me.
Yeah, we
No,
did.
no,
Actually,
that was that other guy.
We did that a lot.
I will tell you this.
7 consecutive at
because
bats for one
Cooney-
guy. It was awesome.
Because Cooney and those guys all play with my brother Stevie. I mean,
Very
they
Doc
grew up
Ellis-like.
together. I was
One of his
always
teammates.
I was always immune to that.
Yeah.
Joe Cooper, unfortunately, was not.
Joe Coop. I played with him in Lakeland.
7 consecutive at bats.
But the team,
Jim Magazine too.
and God,
Jimmy Magazine used to come to before the game. He goes, "Okay, just hit me the first. Just hit me at the first pitch. Don't let me think about it."
but a former teammate of yours and a guy that I wound up coaching with, God rest his soul, Marty Schreiber.
Yes.
My favorite Class A story ever. He literally walked me on 4 pitches on purpose so he could pick me off.
He was
He's
too.
the greatest. The greatest.
He does.
He literally froze me. Like
That was a badge of honor to be picked.
I.
If you played ball, you got picked off by Marty.
So coaching with him,
I don't think I had enough at bats.
we're drinking. We're drinking a couple of bottles of coffee.
That's
late
where a
night,
little OBP helps
and
right
the
there.
stores start flowing, and that unless you had and Terry knows this because he was there too. Unless you had an opportunity to play in that league at that time,
Are
you
there
don't
leagues like that
no,
anymore?
There really isn't.
I mean, there's college.
Well, there's the
leagues,
collegiate leagues.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
they
think
have-
there's anything quite like Class
but, like,
A around
guys
here
don't
anymore.
after 26. If they don't make it, they kind of quit playing.
Yeah.
I mean, they play Roy Hobbs and that stuff. But yeah, it's
But-
sad.
But it's a fantastic. Like I said, this is a thrill for me to have you guys come in and talk today. So
Thank
I
you,
truly
Patrick.
truly appreciate.
Yeah.
And keep doing what you guys are doing from the coaching perspective. And yes, absolutely, tell Ty we can have him on the show anytime.
I'll do a
Absolutely.
wrestling show next
Yeah.
year.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
I'll wear my
Thank you.
I'll wear my cape and elf slippers.
There you go.
Oh, that's a different kind of wrestling. I'm
Thanks a
sorry.
lot, guys.
No, thank you guys. It's
Appreciate
been
the time,
fantastic.
guys.
It's been a
Thank
fantastic
you.
one. Thank you.
Jimmy. Absolutely. Send the next
Send
give
two
me
more.
Atkins.
You want the righty, Pat?
Yeah, let's get Hugo too.
Another guy was a
So walk
teammate
in front
with.
of the camera, man. No problem.
I'll refute all the lies that you were just told.
They said you hit a grand slam.
That's not a lie.
Okay. And I said you were immediately drug tested.
The story I tell is that was a 36 run.
You got to move. You gotta move.
That was probably a 36 run, 30 hit game that day.
Yeah.
1 home run over the fence that day. Jim likes to say that the tornado was blowing out. It wasn't.
He said you hit it from second base, actually.
That's what Tommy did. Tommy
Tommy
said
said that, yeah.
That's harsh. Yeah. No, it was legit. But you know what? It was drizzling that day, and I thought we got pulled off the field at some point, and I thought, oh, I just hit my first ever over the fence homer,
It's not going to
and
count.
it's not
It's not
going
going
to
to
count.
count.
And Pat, you were talking about your kids giving you the glory days. All he's missing is the bandana.
That's right. He does got a kind of Bruce Springsteen thing
He
going
does,
on.
he
Right?
does,
Nice.
Absolutely.
So we are joined.
He was probably the best looking kid on the team.
Well, that's not.
Well, there
saying
goes
much.
his ego.
37 years ago.
So we're joined by Paul Atkins and Chris Hughes. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yep.
So the obligatory question is this. We've been asking everybody this. When did you guys kind of know that 82 was going to be a special year for you guys?
Let the senior go first.
We always had that. Pat, you played, so we always had that spark with our team. When we were sophomores, Joe Eiffelise and Jim played on varsity that year, so we had 2 10th graders up there. We were 16-8 on JV, but it was really probably that next summer. I played Legion for 2 years, so I played after. There were 6 of us that played after.
Hold on
10th
one
grade.
second.
Yep.
Hey, Kenny, he made the Legion team. Just saying.
2 years.
2 years.
Twice. I was 15 that summer playing 18U as a 15.
How many years you play Legion ball, Hugo?
What's that?
How many years you play Legion ball?
2.
There we go.
Yeah, there's a couple of us that got lucky enough to play 2. But I think it was that summer because there we were as 15 or young 16-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds, and we were 33-5, something crazy like that. Went down to Athens, won our first game down there, and then got beat twice. So that was a awakening. But I think right there we knew we could. At that age, we were already competing with those good teams, and in the Serra coach teams, it was all defense, pitching. We would score exactly the number of runs we needed to score every game. But I think it was probably that summer after 10th grade, the summer of 80, I guess
80,
that was 81.
81.
So it was probably that summer that I felt like we can do it.
That's the exact same thing for me. When we went down there, we were thinking, oh my God, these guys are a lot older than us. We're all sophomores and juniors, and we hung. We did good, and I think we came out of that and we were like, we could do this. We got a pretty good team. Then we started playing teams our own age in the actual league itself, and there wasn't really a whole lot of competition kind of locally. Brush gave us some good runs a couple times. They had a couple good guys, Brian Mann and Matt Hudek, and they had.
Brian's actually watching right now.
Yeah.
He said, "Brush
But
guy
those guys
loving
are
the
younger
show."
than
Hey,
you.
I take that back.
Those guys were younger than you, though.
They were younger than us, but
because they're younger than I am.
right, they were a year younger than me. I think they were 84, 85
Right.
in that
Well,
range.
Hawk was
85.
85.
And
Yeah,
Because I'm 84 and you were 83.
Right,
Hootie
right.
was 86, I believe.
Okay.
Was he that young? Okay, jeez.
So, you guys go down to Columbus.
Mhm.
Everybody, Coach Serra was saying that I think it was Saponsic made a great catch that, kind of solidified some. But the stat, and this is the stat that you provided us a couple of weeks ago, and Danny brought it up. Eight runs in 7 games. I don't know much about what goes into winning and losing, but I know that had probably something to do with why you guys came home with the ring.
Yeah, that was. And if there was any way to win it, I'm glad we won it like that and not with blowouts and things like that, because it really kind of cemented how we played. We were 2-3 runs up on teams, I think, before we even took the field, just from a defensive and a strategic standpoint. We gave up 3 outs an inning. We did not give up. We did not have a lot of errors. And so talk about a team locking it in. And I think in our last 11 total games, we had 13 runs given up. So we locked it in down the stretch.
It's an easy game. I've been trying to tell you guys that for 3 years.
It's an easy game. Just don't allow any runs. I mean,
It was typical Euclid baseball.
Right.
It really
Well,
was.
we
It
were
was-
blessed. We had kids. The one thing I did want to say was you don't go 34-1 with 9 guys. We had a roster of 24 guys, as evidenced by the next year, the record these guys had. So we had 24 guys that could have started on most teams in the area. Pat, you know how that works with the depth of the Euclid team. So that's a shout out to all the guys on the team. It was totally a team effort. But yeah, it was. I think the one Mr. Serra's talking about was our district opener, our district semi, 3-0 on Iggy, bottom of 7. They had bases loaded,
Yeah.
and a kid ripped one in the gap, and it's a game tying triple for sure. And Ron Saponsic tracked it down in the gap for the 3rd out of the game. So, yeah, but that preserved the shutout. We shut out Lakewood, and then Iggy, and then Nordonia in the next game. So we had our first 3 tournament games were shutouts. So, yeah, great start, and that's how we won a lot of our games.
And it had to be, when you had the kind of pitching you guys had in 82, and let's face it, you guys were at least 4 deep, maybe 5 or 6 deep from a pitching perspective. It had to give them a lot of confidence to just go out there and throw, because the infield that you guys threw out there was one of the best that's ever, graced the diamond over there at the Palace. So did they rely on you guys from that perspective, from a defensive perspective?
I'll let one of those 4 pitchers answer.
Yeah, I mean, it was, we all know Joe and Kenny and everything. I'll tell you, though, with PA and Bruce Benedict on that side of the field, Bruce had some good range, and, boy, he had the sewer at first base, man. I mean,
Decent-sized target over there.
yeah, Bruce was, what, a good 6'3", 6'4"? And he's lefty, and he knew how to play. He knew how to play first base, So some of those throws that you kind of like, oh shit, and Bruce would suck it right up, So these two guys were vacuums over there. So like I mentioned before, it's typical Euclid baseball: pitching, defense, and small ball.
And grand slams.
And grand slams.
And our pitchers threw hard, so a lot of those late swingers, our right side of the infield got a lot of play too from that, because these guys all threw hard.
There's been a lot of talk, guys, about how you guys had games won, or at least you had a lead when the other team got off the bus. Was there anybody that you guys played that you thought was so familiar with you that you didn't really have that advantage?
There was a couple of, I think there was a couple of teams. I mean, I had a couple of people that I've talked to later on and after, and that said our infield. The game was over after they saw after we took infield. And if you knew how Mr. Serra was with the infield, it was crisp, it was clean, it was fast. We had teams standing on the top edge of the dugout, just going like, "Oh God, we got to play these guys." I mean, and we took pride in that. But when we started playing, was it like East Lake North a little bit with, was it Chicago? What was this?
Larry Kucharski
and those guys,
And Humple.
Yeah,
Well, if I had to name those teams, Willie South, my junior year, probably the worst loss I've ever had in my career was, as a junior, we lost the regional final to go to Columbus to South, who we'd beaten twice during the regular season. So that they were great. Brush was excellent, and North was excellent. So if you talk about strictly from a standpoint of who really wasn't intimidated,
it was
those 3 teams, because those are GCC opponents. But we know a lot of those guys like post baseball life, and so they're great guys, and we know they weren't afraid of us. It's just that we were just really good, and we were able to win, when we had to.
Well, I mean, you guys talked a lot about the pitching and defense, but and I did have to kind of bust Pat here a little bit. No slash line on the offensive numbers here in the stat sheet. A little bit bummed out about that, but
he's a sabermetrics guy. He is. Trust me, the first thing he said, he goes, "I'm looking at all these stats. There's no slash line."
No slash line.
It probably didn't exist back then.
No, but well, the other thing I want to bring up, though, I mean, it's not like you guys are just scraping together wins here either. I mean, 7.5 runs a game. Just because I like to do this stuff, a Pythagorean winning percentage of 32-3. So it's not like you guys were getting lucky here. I mean, you guys were just flat out dominant as a baseball team. How did that feel to get out there knowing that if we got 2 or 3 runs, this is great, but now wait, we're getting 7? How much fun was that going on the hill knowing you got that and with that defense behind you?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I mean, we just had all the confidence in the world, I'll be honest with you. And when we stepped out there, it was kind of in our mind, beat us, and we gave it a good run. Everybody was committed. That was key. Sarah, Hart. I mean, I coached for 15 plus years after. Hardest thing for me was I actually went to Sarah. It's like, how do you run a good practice? That was the hardest thing for me. I mean, kids standing in the outfield while you're throwing, batting practice. That's not a good practice. So it all started for us, to answer your question, in practice. I mean, there was never anybody ever standing around doing nothing. There was always, first basemen were practicing scoops. The middle infield was turning fake double plays, whatever it was. And if you were a pitcher, you better be backing up the right base on something that may be a triple. I mean, the situational side of it, I think, really prepared us to when we knew what we were doing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but was the last inning of the championship game, did you guys turn a double play right before the last out?
Yeah, we scraped out a 3-1 lead going into bottom of 7 in that game. And they had a kid named Alan Anderson who went on to pitch for the Minnesota Twins. He won an ERA title in the American League one year. but they had let him pitch the entire game in the semis the day before. He threw a no-hitter against Withrow, Cincinnati Withrow. It was like an 8-0 game or something. You think they could have taken him out and saved him, but he pitched the whole complete game. But he let off the bottom of 7 with a walk, and then the next guy smacked a 2-hopper right at me. So I went to second to Joe at short for 1, back to first. It was a little low throw. Benny scooped it out of the dirt. So that was 2 outs, bottom of 7, 1 more out, up 3-1.
All right, so I want to take you to that moment right there, okay? Because it's 3-1. There's 2 outs. You're 1 out away from obviously doing it. What was the thought on the field right there?
Well, I was having trouble breathing.
I was going to say, don't hit it to me right now.
I was having trouble. No, actually, quite the opposite. I was like, yeah, hit it at me. I wanted the ball. But it was, I cannot believe we're about to win the state title. We've been dreaming about it for forever. Mr. Serra was like my 7th or 8th grade basketball coach. You know, he let me bat boy when I was 9, 10 years old, driving up to probably to see your brothers playing for McDonald's or somebody. Mr. Serra would let me in the dugout to bat boy. But that was an unbelievable feeling. Looking up at the stands, looking at all of our parents, our siblings. And then, of course, the next kid, a lefty, Chip Lance, he hit a solo shot.
It's still going
with 2 strikes. with 2 strikes.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting
Terry
at.
on the mound.
Like you go
Easy,
from,
big fella.
I'm only teasing.
you go from that.
That was
okay,
Joe
we're
Jackson.
1 out
That was at
away
Gordon
to
Park.
kind of thing.
No, that was it.
Yeah, it was. Well, when the kid hit it, I mean, thank God we turned the double play, of
Yeah,
course.
exactly.
That
That comes up huge. Yeah.
both ends of it, right? If we had only gotten one end of it. But I still had confidence. 3-2, okay, nobody on, bases clear, 2 outs. The next kid, I like to remember it as like a 9-hopper through the left side. I don't know. This kid hits a single that saw its way through the left side. So now they got a guy on first. Their crowd's going crazy. And that's when Louis came back in. And we had gotten the kid who hit the single, we had gotten him to 2 strikes. So we were 1 strike away twice. And then Louis came in, I think just to that one hitter,
Right.
and he flew out.
And I believe this to be correct. I'm not 100% sure. But right now, you cannot enter a game back in as a pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe Louis, he has a record, and I think this is true, that'll stand forever, is that he got the win and the save in the state championship game.
Yeah.
How about that?
You got a save in the
I love
semifinal
that.
too.
And
I
he
love that
saved
little
the
kid.
semi.
Yeah.
The save in the semi. So, I mean, that can never be broken with today's rules.
Now, one of the things that I, have kind of asked the other guys too is, you mentioned how growing up Euclid baseball, everything. I mean, I grew up in Euclid. I grew up with that. Pat, obviously, we know he lived it and breathed it and loves it, even all to this day. How much more special was that coming up with that group, with that particular group of guys to come up and after coming up short, this group goes and you finally achieve that? How special was it? How much more special did that become because of the upbringing and because you were with those guys all the way through it?
Yeah, I mean, we've all been friends since we were 8, 9 years old. I think one of the Deanna boys broke his nose at 10 years old. He ran me over in Legion and
put him in the hospital.
Put me in the hospital for a couple of days. So we've had close relationships over time.
It sounds like a brotherly type of love. It really does.
But just coming up, and like I said, with me, it started, I would ride my bike from my house up to the high school, and as I turned that corner, I would always hope that there were cars in the parking lot because that meant there was a game going on. And like I said, it was either the Legion team or the Lake County A guys. So from a young age.
You grew up on Trevick?
I was on Miller.
Because
I was part of that Roosevelt.
That's what I remember. I remember at a very young age playing ball against you guys at Roosevelt.
We had a great probably 6-7 years of kids.
Yeah.
That it's just like anybody. If you want to compete, you got to play with the older kids. Pat,
and I was lucky.
You know that better.
I
than
was
anybody.
lucky enough. I had older brothers that I don't know if it was my mom told them I had to play or whatever, but I got to play with the older kids. And I'm telling you, to this day, that was the difference.
Yep.
That was the having when you're 6 and 7 years old and you're playing against 14, 15, 16-year-old kids.
Pat, I'll just tell you, as the oldest of 3 boys, Mom had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Trust me, Mom had something to do with it.
But the
rubber off the wall games up at Memorial. I mean, I grew up on Friday.
Right.
So,
there you go. Yeah.
We were up there, and we sometimes we'd have to switch it because there was a Legion game going on. So if you hit it off of the concession stand at now Sarah Field, it went over into the Legion game.
I flipped over the fence once, and we were talking. Jimmy Mitch brought up Nils,
Nils.
and we were talking about this in the press box the other day. We did the Mayfield Menor game, and it always struck me as odd that Nils, no matter what time of day it was, if you did anything anywhere near the Palace, he was on you.
Yeah,
almost like he was sitting there. But apparently, he literally lived. I guess Coach Turkle told me he lived right over there. That now it makes perfect sense to me. But
tell you, I took some of those lessons though from Nils as I coached my son through the mentor travel and everything. It killed me to watch other teams warm up on the infield, get them down the line, get out from in front of the dugouts, get out there. That was one of Nils' things. Shout out to Nils.
And you guys are laughing because you know when I say this, that's the most iconic thing that people that weren't part of the program don't get. How we weren't allowed to do anything on the reason the field looked the way that it did is because we weren't allowed. We weren't allowed to do anything on it.
Yep.
So,
and it was cherished. You wanted to play on that field so bad when you were a kid.
And I know this is probably the same for you guys, but when you first walked on the Palace as a player, pretty special, no?
My first game there was Euclid Central. We played the 9th grade championship there. We played Mitch's in the Deanna Shore team. And Joe Eifley's pitched. He was our shortstop. I played second, but I slid over to short for that game. And that was my first live game on that field. I couldn't believe how big that infield was.
Yeah,
you probably, because me and Chris went to Central. Chris was in. We had kind of a funny age group. I was in the same grade as Jim and those guys as a senior, but I was more age grouped to Chris and Louie and Donette and Stacy Jones and guys like that. So I was a really young senior. So I played probably more ball with these guys during like Pony League All-Stars and all that stuff than I did with because they were a year up from me. So
Mort Thompson traded me for.
You got traded?
I got traded for Tony Fosk and a couple of dozen balls.
The Scott Brown trade.
Yeah.
Scott Brown got traded in Lake County A for a dozen balls and I think 2 cases of Miller or something.
Sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Was that
traded him? We traded
from the Lakers.
Was that like on the draft chart? Is that what it said he was worth?
No, it was literally in the middle of the season. I think at the All-Star break, we come back and we're like, "Where's Bronner? I traded him. We needed balls and beer." What? Yeah, we needed balls and beers. We traded
play first base.
That's my type of GM right there.
The Merchants.
And he killed us the second half of the year. Oh my God, did he kill us?
But
then we started picking him up for tournaments.
Yeah.
You trade him and then you pick him up.
Traded him and pick him back up.
So we're up against it a little bit here, but I want to guys ask you one thing. If you had to pick one moment from that year, other than the obvious, raising your hands as champions, what would it be?
Well, I'm just going to go on a fun side. I threw a 3-hitter against Shaker Heights, and these guys blew it, and we lost.
You know what?
We
lost.
lost.
Yeah. Because I wanted to ask
Who missed the bunt?
Yeah, who missed the bunt?
Yeah.
Unnamed player.
Yeah.
He's here. That's all we know.
Player to be named later.
You know what's really funny?
It wasn't me.
This is how close you guys are.
It wasn't me.
No
And it
one
wasn't
will give
give out.
No one will give them up.
Nobody's giving him up.
But I'll tell you, though, that Shaker kid that day,
Yeah,
he had
we
to
got-
pitch it in the minors, I think.
We got beat fair and
He was
square.
throwing 90-plus, and it was just – there was no chance. That dude was just chucking it. He was on. We saw him later on, and there's something, and he
Yeah, that was
walked 12
we got
people.
beat.
But he was on that day. And yeah, I threw a 3-hitter, and you guys just let me know.
Sorry. Pat, to answer your question, I'm going to say 2 things. One was when the last out of the Padua game was made to go to Columbus. I mean, that was
cool.
really our dream, was to go play at the state tournament. And so I think for me, when that last out of the Padua game was made, we realized we're playing another weekend. We're going to Columbus. Because I think we felt like if we could just get there, we're going to win it. We needed to get there. So that was one. And then I think the second thing was when that last out was made, I was just looking at Mr. Serra, just staring at him basically and just seeing just the load of relief. And we felt so proud to be able to bring it to him. And, of course, Coach Hart as well. But Mr. Serra, that was really a big thing for us. I think we all wanted that bad.
When that ball went up for the last out, I was in left, Ronnie was in center, and that ball went up, and Ronnie just started hooting while the ball was in the air. I'm like, dude, you haven't caught it yet. And he was just
waving people off.
Yeah, there was just nobody around. He's waving and yelling, and just boom, and it was just like he just looked right.
It was very Rick Manning-esque during the.
Exactly.
It looked a lot like
he did that
the
same
perfect
thing.
game.
Yeah. For you guys playing for Coach Serra and Coach Hartman, this was brought up a little bit, and I've talked about this numerous times. When you play for a legendary coach, playing for Coach Basu, playing for Coach Gutbrod, playing for Coach Kyle, playing for Coach Serra, how much of it is you don't want to disappoint the guy you're playing for?
That is really it. I mean, it was Serra and Hart were just they were up here, So yeah, there's no doubt about it. No, you never wanted to let anybody down, let alone those guys.
I would kind of add to that. They kind of made it easy for the players, though. I mean,
Right.
it was easy to play hard for those two guys because they gave it 100% every time out.
Yeah, I think we all took it as a compliment that they felt we were worthy to be on that roster. So really, truly, we really felt like it was a total honor. Because back in that day, man, geez, if you could play for Euclid, that was pretty important. So just knowing that they had the trust in you. One of the things I had sort of remembered to mention was, do you remember we went through those one-on-one coaches meetings and players?
Mm-hmm.
They called us out of class into an empty room with Coach Serra and Hart. I've been in a lot of meetings for work, important meetings over the years. I was probably more nervous for that meeting because basically, even though I had started as a junior, and you probably were the same thing, you come back, they brought you in that room and they told you, here's exactly what we expect of you. Here's what you're going to have to do to get playing time and those kind of things. And you were just like, it doesn't matter what I have to do. I'm going to do exactly what Mr. Serra and Mr. Hartman told me.
I know you said we're up against, but you said made you nervous. I was pitching at Central one day, and all of a sudden I looked, and Hart and Serra were at the game at Central. And I was like, I was shaking. It's just like, oh, my God, they're here, And after the game, Hartman came up to me, and he goes, you got a great arm. We just got to tame you a little bit. And he was the first one that really kind of let's teach you how to pitch.
I will tell you, pressure. 31. I graduated 31 years ago. I coached.
My kid.
Yeah, I coached a few years back. My summer team was playing at Paul Serra Field. So on top of playing at a field that's named after my high school coach, legendary coach, Coach Serra was there. Coach Turkle was there. That's pressure when you got a coach with those guys. That's pressure.
My son played for Menor, and when he was a junior, he got to start like the third game of the year at Euclid. And in his first varsity pitch he saw as a junior was at the Palace, and he got a base hit on the first, and he was playing second base, my spot at the Palace. So my son's first varsity start, basically, first pitch he saw, base hit at the Palace, playing second base. Couldn't have been any better than that. That was really cool. So.
And see, Terry, when we talk about the Catholic school thing, and I always say I don't get it. This is what we have. This is
right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, absolutely.
It's that thing.
And it also tells you the community part of it and how special that run was, and how special that team was, and how special those teammates were, and that's why here we are, 37 years after the fact. And you guys are remembering this like it was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a reason for it.
All these comments are like, I can't believe they have it. They have all of this,
It's a lasting impression, I'll tell you.
The party at Bruce's house that night.
Yeah, so we leave Columbus, and Bruce's parents are going like on a vacay straight from Columbus. We're going
Mr. and
We're
Mrs.
going
Matthews.
straight back to Benedict's house. And I remember that night.
One beer, right, Hugo? Two.
Per half hour.
Yeah, they can't make you run now, so you can tell the truth.
Well,
He was only a junior, though. He had an need to come back.
I lived on the next street, so I could walk through the backyard.
the best part of that night was we ended up getting back to Bruce's house about maybe 8 o'clock. By the time we got home from Columbus and everybody went home, got back to Bruce's, 8 o'clock. So one of the phones rings. I don't know who got called or whatever, or the house phone rang.
Yeah, there was no
I don't even know if
Yeah.
there were cell phones back then. But it was Mr. Serra on the phone, and he's like, whatever you do, protect the juniors. And so he just He said,
Yeah, you guys are
basically
done.
like,
I don't care about you guys
Johnny
anymore.
Donette,
Right.
Chris, all those guys, just like protect the juniors. We're like,
Make
we
sure
will.
Hugo
Yes,
and
sir.
Gnovic are okay. That's the only time that's ever been uttered.
Yeah,
Sure, that's for sure.
Well,
that was a fun
we
night.
want to thank you guys for,
Yeah.
for joining us. This has been a
you,
blast.
guys.
It was a lot of fun.
Really
Thank
cool.
you guys very much.
And
Appreciate it.
this has been a special edition of Talkback Fans. I'm Pat Langdon.
I'm Danny Boyce.
Terry Howe, do we want to give anything about what's going on the rest of the week?
Yeah,
Anything?
you might
Maybe
as well
thank the sponsors.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
throw
go
that
ahead.
in.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll thank the sponsors first. So as always, Pepco, Victory Park, Jack and Joe Borky, Dave Nager, attorney at law in the law offices of Nager, Romaine, and Schneiberg. Dave Nager. Dugout Sports and Baseball Club, Jeff Winrod and Brian Pellegrini. Clearview Window and Gutter Cleaning, Terry Hamilton. The Menor Salt Cave, Amy Wojciechowski. Seasonal Sporting Goods, Chris Kalick. And as always, Twisted Cow Beef Jerky, Dave Gottschall. We want to thank our sponsors because without their support, we couldn't do shows like tonight.
Yep.
Rest of the week, there could be a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on. Depends upon how things play out. Our plan is on Thursday afternoon to be at the Division II regional semifinals, most likely the 5 o'clock game at Hudson, which will feature Gilmore. If Gilmore and or Benedictine win on Thursday, we plan to be back for the championship game on Friday night. Saturday morning, it's the
We've
beginning
got-
of the Miracle League.
Yep. One of the biggest days for us.
And then between Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, it is the
It's
Dugout 18U, depending upon weather.
It's looking-
that will be
it's
at
looking-
South.
It's looking like between 3 and 5 o'clock on Saturday. but
Right.
yeah.
So we're looking at covering a ball game possibly each day there. So a lot of stuff going on. And folks, the emails went out today to try to start to schedule the football preview shows. That's going to take up a lot of June and July. So things are about to get real hectic here for us.
We love it.
We couldn't ask for anything more. So
So on that note, this has been Talkback Fans. I'm Pat Langdon.
I'm Danny Boyce.
Terry Howe.
And we'll see you Thursday.
Thursday.
See you.